Good morning. My name is Matt Friedman, and I'm with the Utility Reform Network, TURN. TURN is a ratepayer advocacy group here in California representing the interests of small consumers of electricity, telecommunications, and water services. And we've been active on these issues for over 30 years. Before I give my statement, I'd like to announce that the Pro Tem, Senator Steinberg, is ill and unfortunately can't join us here today. Senator Simitian, the author of SB14, is not in Sacramento and will be able to answer questions by phone from Palo Alto, where he is today. California is at a pivotal juncture in its quest to harness renewable resources to power our economy and to provide consumers with affordable and stable alternatives to fossil fuels. The current Renewables Portfolio Standard program has led to an explosion in green business opportunities and a rush to develop wind, solar, geothermal, and biomass projects across the state. In the coming years, thousands of megawatts of new renewable power will become operational under this program. These projects sell their electricity to California consumers at fixed prices and provide an insurance policy against constant fluctuations in fossil fuel prices and supply, and help provide a hedge against market manipulation like we saw during the energy crisis of 2000 and 2001. Under existing law, the state may not require the utilities to increase their renewable portfolios beyond the 20% target. New legislation is absolutely necessary to ensure that all electricity providers can be required to go beyond the 20% and to achieve a 33% renewable goal by 2020. The bills enacted late Friday night by the legislature, SB14 and AB64, these were the product of extensive negotiations and discussions and hard work by consumer and environmental advocates, utilities, renewable generating companies, and organized labor. They represent a balanced package of consumer protections containing clear directives to utilities and to the Public Utilities Commission, the lead agency. They offer reasonable flexibility in meeting the targets, have strict eligibility definitions, and focus on ensuring that future renewable resources will provide clean energy and real benefits to California. TURN supports these bills and the careful approach that is embodied therein. And I want to acknowledge the tireless efforts of Senator Steinberg, Senator Padilla, Senator Simitian, the Assembly Speaker, and Assembly members Krikorian and Fuentes, and all of the staff members who worked very hard on these bills. The governor has repeatedly articulated his support for a 33% renewable energy goal, and he has endorsed the expansion of this current program. He's spoken about the importance of putting California at the forefront of the green jobs revolution. We share these objectives, but his recent threats to veto these bills raises real doubts about whether he's more interested in colorful slogans than meaningful actions. His threats are astounding and perplexing, and his proposed alternative, yet another executive order, falls far short of the bold leadership needed at this time. The alternative floated by the governor is unworkable, unwise, and dangerous. It would throw the future of California's renewable energy goals into doubt. Signing an executive order does not overturn existing law. It will not provide comfort to developers considering whether to make long-term investments in California. And it leaves hundreds of important details to be determined by the Air Resources Board, an understaffed and overburdened agency lacking the experience or the expertise to regulate the complicated nuances of buying and selling renewable energy. Renewable energy companies will only invest in California if the state demonstrates a long-term commitment through stable and consistent policies. an executive order does not provide any lasting assurances because it could be overturned by a future governor, invalidated by a court challenge, or rendered completely meaningless by the implementing agency. Rather than providing clarity, this path would only create confusion and uncertainty and almost certainly promote wasteful litigation. In contrast to SB14 and AB64, the governor supports allowing utilities to engage in sham transactions in which existing coal-fired electricity throughout the West can be imported into California and claimed as renewable. In contrast to SB14 and AB64, the governor offers no real consumer protections to limit rate increases. In contrast to AB64 and SB14, the governor supports relocating clean energy investments, jobs, tax revenues, and environmental benefits from California to other parts of the West and even to Canada. Without a primary focus on in-state resource development, the future of this initiative may amount to nothing more than a transfer of money from California consumers to out-of-state generating companies in exchange for a piece of paper and a lump of coal. The alternative that the governor has suggested does not represent real progress. It will not benefit consumers. Rather than taking this hasty and ill-considered step, the governor should reconsider his threats, and he should sign SB14 and AB64. He should keep the interests of California at the forefront of his decision-making, and he should avoid making a mistake that could set back the clean energy agenda by years and forever tarnish his environmental and energy legacy. The next speaker is Peter Miller with the Natural Resources Defense Council.
Good morning. My name is Peter Miller, and I'm representing the Natural Resources Defense Council. I'm here today to urge the governor to sign AB64 and SB14, which we see as the best path forward to achieving the state's 33% RPS goal, meeting our greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, and advancing the state's agenda. A 33% renewable portfolio standard means that California will continue to lead the nation in the development of clean energy resources, which provide thousands of green jobs every year. The commitment to get a third of our energy from renewable resources by 2020 confirms California's dedication to the new clean energy economy and reaffirms our leadership in tackling global warming pollution. The continued development of renewable energy will benefit California consumers by building a diverse and resilient resource base that will help to minimize the threat of fossil fuel price surges and enhance our energy security. Together, SB14 and AB64 represent a balance between the need for flexibility and the importance of encouraging in-state development. In achieving the 33% RPS goal, we must create adequate flexibility to allow utilities and renewable developers to achieve these goals at a reasonable cost. But we must also work to ensure that California benefits from the jobs and economic development that this investment will create. All parties need to work together to address the challenges we face in meeting this common goal. We're committed to this effort and look forward to working with the governor and other stakeholders to resolve any issues that arise in implementing this ambitious and important effort. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Darren Boughton, and I represent First Solar. First Solar is one of the largest manufacturers of photovoltaics in the world, and we have one of the largest solar project development pipeline in the western United States. We're an American company. We've created thousands of American jobs, yet one of our largest markets is not here in our own backyard, but in a nation known for its lack of abundance of sunlight, and that's Germany. In Germany, the government made a strong commitment to attracting solar investment. It set goals, it created competition, and has become the most robust, cost-competitive market in the world for solar electricity in a relatively short amount of time. Now, California is a leader in renewable energy and has been for some time, but it needs to make a similar commitment to solar energy with this legislation. To be sure, First Solar has inked major deals to supply thousands of megawatts of clean energy with California's major investor-owned utilities, as well as some of the municipal-owned utilities. We have one of the largest solar projects in the United States under development, the Topaz project in San Luis Obispo. We have a number of projects in the pipeline on federal lands throughout the state, and our panels are being installed on rooftops throughout the state through the Solar City residential network. Yet there's much more that our company, and not only our company, but our competitors can do. And that's why this legislation is so vital to the solar industry. We worked closely with a broad array of partners on this bill. At the end of the day, we're pleased with what it accomplishes, and we believe that the package of legislation before the governor will create more high-quality, high-wage jobs, oftentimes in some of the most economically depressed areas of our state. This package will help reduce the cost of solar energy to utilities and customers. This package will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by substituting clean power for brown power, and it will make California our nation's leader in solar electricity. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Scott Wetch, and I'm here today representing the Coalition for Green Jobs, a broad coalition representing hundreds of thousands of construction workers in California. We're here today to ask the governor to give a lifeline to California's working families. While the governor continues to talk about the renewable energy sector being the locomotive of economic development, he's proposing to leave California's working families at the train station. According to the legislative analysis of SB14 and AB64, California would need approximately 22,000 megawatts of renewable power to meet the increased RPS goal. Using a common matrix used in the construction industry, that would, if built in California, would create over 200,000 jobs for Californians. Today, California is teetering with a 12% unemployment rate and over 20% underemployed rate. And yet the governor is callously considering shipping jobs out of state. I'd like to, just for a moment, bring some light to the original underpinnings of the Renewable Portfolio Standard Program, the landmark program created by former State Senator Byron Scheer. In code today, in the Public Resources Code, the three pillars that make up the foundation of the RPS program in law are that the RPS program must reduce the state's reliance on fossil fuel. However, as it was explained earlier by Matt Freeman of Turn, what we really have is a sham system where you can game the system and actually bring coal into California, but wash it as green power. So vetoing SB14 fails on that mark. The second primary goal in the statute for the RPS is to clean California's environment and provide health benefits to Californians. But yet again, under the governor's proposal in May and under what we assume will be in the executive order, he's proposing allowing the clean energy to be built in other states, while we're left here in California with the traditional power. And lastly, the statute lays out that an RPS must create economic development and economic benefits to California. Again, the governor's proposal instead would provide those benefits to other states. I'd like to debunk the statements made by some spokespeople in the governor's office over the weekend that AB64 and SB14 is a protectionist scheme. Nothing could be further than the truth. Under the legislation is sent to the governor, it allows for 30% of the power that is to be procured to be in the form of renewable energy credits, which could come from out-of-state projects. In addition to that, it has a very flexible definition of what counts as delivered energy. It doesn't differentiate between in-state and out-of-state. You'll find that nowhere in the legislation. It talks about if the energy is close enough to California that it can be delivered. And that definition is so flexible that it would allow far more than the 30% to come from out of state. That is why the state's largest utility, PG&E, and Sempra in Southern California, and the LA Department of Water and Power are supporting it. So that is just a smokescreen to divert attention from what's really happening. that the Independent Energy Producers Association is the one that's calling the shots on this proposed veto. I find it interesting that in the governor's office's statements that they've stated that they want to protect the development of the solar industry, and that's why they can't live with the deliverability requirements. If you look in the existing RPS program at all of the power purchase agreements that have been entered into in the existing queue, there's 5,535 megawatts of solar. If you look at all of the developers that are responsible for those 5,535 megawatts of power, less than 150 megawatts come from developers within the IEP organization who are opposing this legislation. BrightSource, Sterling Energy Systems, just to take the top two, have over 2/3 of that portfolio in development, and they stand strongly supporting this legislation. So with that, we would just urge the governor to spend some time and reflect, to go to the Department of Employment Development in Los Angeles near his home and talk to the people standing in the unemployment lines, reach out to some families at his church that are hurting, who are losing their homes, who are losing their livelihoods, and reflect upon that before taking action on these bills. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jim Taboo. I'm the Chief Legislative Representative for the City of Los Angeles. I'm here today on behalf of the LA Department of Water and Power and Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. Be remiss if I first didn't start by saying thank you to Assembly Members Krikorian, Fuentes, and Senator Steinberg and Senator Padilla, and especially Senator Simidian, for their work on this. It was very difficult negotiations, but at the end of the day, LADWP is happy to be in support of these two bills. I'd like to read a brief statement from Mayor Villaraigosa. I write to express my support for AB64 Krikorian and SB14 Simidian. As Mayor of Los Angeles, I've challenged the LA Department of Water and Power to reach renewables targets by 20% by 2010 and 40% by 2030. In reaching these goals, we will fulfill our most urgent environmental and economic needs by pursuing available renewables at the lowest possible cost while creating jobs for our residents. I believe AB64 and SB14 strike this crucial and essential balance. These bills are key to reaching our greenhouse gas reduction goals and improving air quality. In addition, this landmark legislation can boost California's high-tech industry and bring about a unique combination of economic benefits through new high-paying jobs and stable fuel costs that are only possible through renewable energy development. I urge Governor Schwarzenegger to sign AB64 and SB14. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Dan Call with the Union of Concerned Scientists. Union of Concerned Scientists is one of the leading environmental groups involved not only here in the legislature pushing for more renewable energy, but also at the CPUC working in proceedings to actually implement the renewable portfolio standards. We have tremendous expertise in this issue, and we strongly urge the governor to sign both SB14 and AB64. You heard a lot about the governor's interest in having flexibility, and as you already heard, there is substantial flexibility in these bills to allow out-of-state resources to assist in our state complying with this new renewable portfolio standard requirement of getting 1/3 of our energy from clean renewable sources to help us with our greenhouse gas goals, help us with air quality, create green-collar jobs for Californians and others in the West. These two bills are good bills with substantial flexibility. If the governor had a chance to hear from those who support these bills, instead of just getting the bad advice that he's gotten from, 1, out-of-state energy providers, 2, from parties who've opposed the RPS, the renewable energy standard we have in the state for years, and 3, from some government bureaucrats who don't like change or just don't like being told what to do. He needs to resist the bad advice and hear and take some time to think about it and hear from those who know these issues well and who could show him that actually this will accomplish the objective that we all want. Renewable energy for all of California, substantial flexibility inside and outside of the state, which this provides, and the ability to actually create green-collar jobs in California. California can do this. We just need the bills signed without anything else getting in the way. We don't need any executive order. We need the bills signed and then move forward to implement them. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Rader, Executive Director of the California Wind Energy Association. CalWIA represents 20 wind energy companies actively developing wind energy projects in 10 California counties, from the very northernmost counties to the very southernmost counties, and out-of-state projects for delivery into California. We're also here to ask the governor to sign these very important bills. We supported these bills because it extends what is currently a very workable program, a program that has created an incredible amount of development activity and competition in the market that was created for renewables in this state. We need the certainty that that program is going to continue. We think the bills do that in a very reasonable way, and we need that certainty to keep investing the millions of dollars in every project that is required in this very difficult state to do business in. We need the certainty that this market is going to exist. If the governor does not support these two bills and sign them, we are afraid that there's going to be chaos and uncertainty in this market for years that will prevent us from meeting our greenhouse gas reduction goals by 2020. We urge the governor to sign these bills. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Dan Jacobson with Environment California. As it's been stated before, there's really three key reasons why the governor should sign this bill. One, green jobs. As Scott said, 200,000 here in the state of California. That's critical. Two, it's a key piece to cutting our global warming emissions. Three is that California needs to be a state leader, needs to be a national leader, and as President Obama heads to Copenhagen to get the world to pay attention to global warming, California and the passage of this bill are critical to that. He should sign these bills and do so right away. Thanks.
Thank you. Those are the prepared statements that people had to offer today. I think now would be an opportunity for folks to ask any questions of any of the speakers.
I'm still confused why a 70% mandate for the power to be produced here in California isn't protectionist legislation. How could that be viewed as anything except protectionist legislation by definition?
Perhaps I can clarify that there is no 70% mandate in the bill. The bill allows for two types of out-of-state power projects to provide power under the program. The first is that any project out of state that can provide direct delivery of their electricity into California would have no limitations. So, for example, there are a number of large solar projects in Nevada that can provide direct delivery into California. There would be no limit at all on the contribution of those projects to meeting the state's renewable portfolio standard goals. In addition, the bill would provide an allowance for 30% of the targets to be met with undelivered energy. This is a case where energy does not meet the delivery requirements. They could buy either certificates or they could engage in any type of arrangement that they want with any project throughout the West. So in fact, if you look at much of the development that's been occurring in and around California, across the border with projects that can provide direct delivery, we could easily be looking at 50% or more of the power coming from out of state at the end of the day. And so there's no hard limitation on that.
Why any state line regulations at all?
It's not about the state line. There's no state line regulation.
50% could come from out of state.
Oh.
I'm just paraphrasing what you just said. I don't understand. Why would there be any regulations that had to do with work? Isn't renewable power good no matter where it comes from?
Well,
You're talking global warming, greenhouse gas emissions. What's that?
If you're actually getting renewable power. And so the issue here is whether or not the purchase from these renewable resources is providing energy directly to California, or, in the case of transactions that have already been approved that we are trying to modify and prohibit in the future, you have a situation where one utility might be buying green electricity from a wind facility in Montana, but actually taking delivery under a coal-fired power contract from the Southwest. Does that reduce our dependence on fossil fuels? If it's an existing agreement that provides no net imports of electricity into the state, that doesn't displace a single molecule of fossil fuel in California, that provides no local environmental benefits, no jobs, no nothing, what did we get for it? Did we get anything, or did we just ship money for nothing to generators that are providing little of value to California? And I think that's really the question that's been raised in this legislative discussion is what do we think is valuable to California consumers? What type of transactions provide us with meaningful benefits? And among those benefits include jobs, but they're not limited to jobs. It's also energy that displaces conventional resources, and that's how the definition has been structured. It's not a hard limit. Oh. Yeah, and I guess I would point out that many other Western states have similar limitations on what can be counted from outside of their state borders and what kind of delivery is required. This is not California being on the bleeding edge here. This is pretty much consistent with what many other Western states have done in structuring their own programs. I think because they recognize that, number one, they want in-state benefits, and number two, they want to make sure that out-of-state resources are providing real energy, real green energy that is meaningful to their customers.
I would just add, this is important, that in addition to the out-of-state renewable energy credits, 25 to 30%, and the delivered energy, which is unlimited, that could come from out of state. There's also there's some grandfathering done of existing contracts that would go above those. So when someone says that it's likely that over half the renewable electricity to meet our requirement in these bills could and maybe would likely come from out of the state, that's probably accurate. But to say that, if you acknowledge that, and then you think about, how big is our state? We're the third largest state in land mass, the eighth largest economy in the world. Everybody says we have tremendous opportunity and tremendous resources for renewable energy. If the governor is saying that even just half of the RPS requirement, if he's saying even that can't be met in California, what does he think? Are we a girly state or something? I mean, this is something that we can do in California. We have the resources, we have the ability, we can get renewable energy built in this state and provide flexibility for out of state, which this bill does provide. He should sign these bills as soon as they get to his desk.